We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports. We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Huge show in store for you here tonight. We are joined by our good buddy, Carter the Power Bryant, and our good friend, Jenna, who will be joining us for the first time at 7:30 as we break down all things ladies softball. Becerra and LSU Tigers lost yesterday, but Jenna Becerra, will join us at 7:30 to discuss that. Tell us in the comments. Tell us in the chat. How aggravated are you in reference to the ladies softball game yesterday, losing twice to ULL of all people? We'll break that down here tonight. Becerra, a massive amount of success over the last couple of seasons after getting to 4 straight College World Series runs. We'll touch on that here tonight, but that's not the only thing on the field, or diamond, I should say, that we will discuss, as Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens both take home honors. As Dylan Cruz is named SEC Player of the Year in back-to-back seasons, and Paul Skeens is named the Pitcher of the Year in the SEC. We'll talk about that as well. Maason Smith, LSU football is cleared. Football freshman report. Football freshman report. We'll touch on that as well throughout the show. The Big Ten is having some massive issues. We'll touch on that. Oh, and by the way, Matt Reiser at Southeastern Louisiana was fired yesterday. We'll touch on that as well. Hearing a lot of things out of Hammond. We'll actually lead off with that one. Apparently, people around Hammond, I don't talk on them enough, so I should not have an opinion. And if I am not in the political structure, I should not talk about Southeastern Louisiana, even though I graduated from there. So nevertheless, we'll touch on it all. Corey says, I would be lying if I said I get worked up over softball, but it feels like we have been underachieving for some time now. I agree with that. Not that I don't watch softball, because I do. Levi on YouTube says, how's it going today, Mr. Blake? Well, it was going okay. I mean, a lot of people are mad at me. And I guess we will just have to sit here and take it. Because what can we do? Oh, and we're going to be talking about the weekend as well. We're going to recap the weekend for LSU baseball. So all in all, I thought it was a good day so far. My mom is in the chat. Now, she watches some lady LSU Tiger softball. She says they should have won at least one of them. Too talented not to make it to a Supers. Lady knows what she's talking about now. She knows what she is talking about. Beth got out coached. Pitching, strong defense, and consistent hitting hasn't been better since Hoover, or maybe hasn't gotten better since Hoover. Yeah. Ryan on YouTube says they can get glad as fast as they got mad. Yeah, they were pretty mad at me. Nothing new. If you've been in the show long enough, All right, let's get this thing rolling, though. George says ladies almost came back. That's true. But they didn't. And there's no business for you to lose to ULL. We'll talk on Becerra here tonight. All right. Let's get this thing rolling. Everybody do us a favor, though, by hitting the like and share. Share to all of those social media groups. Share to all of those social media pages. If you're listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell. We greatly appreciate you doing that, as we're dropping daily content throughout the week, multiple videos throughout the day before we go live. So don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for us as well. If you listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, if you're on the TuneIn app or SiriusXM, rate, review, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate all of you doing that for us. Let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag. They're good friends over at GM Varno & Sons. Don't touch that dial tone as you make fun of me for saying that. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot to discuss. We talk about it next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. With over 65 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to service in your vehicle than GM Varno & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. If you break down the side of the road in the greater Baton Rouge area, they will come and get you. And the best thing about that is that they can come and get you, and then they can bring your vehicle back to their shop and start the repairs right then. Again, GM Varno & Sons. Go see them over at 2500 Fuller Boulevard. Give them a call at 225-664-9992. 225-664-9992. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Let me touch on this very quickly because I have a lot of upset people at me around the Hammond area. So let me get this out of the way. So yesterday, we had been told pretty much all weekend, starting on Friday, actually technically Thursday night, and definitely into Friday morning, that Southeastern Louisiana head baseball coach Matt Reiser was going to be fired at the end of the weekend. A lot of people that don't follow Southeastern, and even people that do, were asking the question as to why. Well, let me just throw this out here for you very quickly, okay? Matt Reiser has done some really good things at Southeastern. You can't take away that he has, and that he maybe could have continued to do that. But they finished the year below 500. They have the best facilities in that conference, without questions, especially baseball. Southeastern has the best, and I'm talking about the best facilities and budget in that conference. It's not remotely close. The equipment deal, let me give an example. The equipment deal that Southeastern Louisiana has, some people believe, and it's been sourced, is more than Northwestern State's entire baseball budget, as an example. To tell you how, I don't want to say pissed, but how upset some people were at Southeastern, over $225,000 was raised in less than a week to buy out Matt Reiser. Truth be told, over the last 5 seasons, Matt Reiser is 120-117. 3 of the last 4 seasons have been losing seasons. And some argued that maybe he should have been let go a year ago, even though I do like Matt Reiser a lot. To people around here, it's unacceptable. So for whatever it's worth, to everybody in Hammond, Louisiana, who are getting on us for quote-unquote not covering, number one, we can report whatever we want, but Matt Reiser has not had the best of record or success over the last couple of years. I like Matt. I think he's going to land on his feet. He's still a really good coach, and whoever that is going to take over Southeastern, even though we do have some names, maybe we'll talk about it at the end of the show. I think that it is one of this more I don't want to call it G5 because it's not, but one of the lower tier programs, and I don't mean that in the wrong way, but non-Power 5 programs, if the right coach gets in there, they can really make some things happen. And no, Ryan, Southeastern isn't LSU, but let's talk some LSU here today. So we had some breaking news today, and I see some comments inside the chat while you're hitting the like and share. So if you haven't done so already, do us a favor by hitting that like and share. Dylan Cruz was named SEC Player of the Year in back-to-back seasons. It's the first time in SEC's history that Dylan Cruz, or that really any player, has been named to that honor. Ever in the SEC's history. Never, ever, ever with all the great players that the SEC has produced in baseball. Not ever, ever, ever all the great players has LSU been able to put out under Skip Bertman, Paul Maneri, etc. Has anyone been the SEC Player of the Year in back-to-back seasons? Dylan Cruz ended with a .423 batting average on 79 runs, 82 hits that led the Tigers this year. 14 home runs, 57 RBIs, and man, he drew 56 walks. That's almost the same amount of games. So Dylan Cruz was going to get a walk per game and has over a 50-plus on-base record that he still is going through. Not only did Dylan Cruz dominate this season, even though he's slumping maybe a little bit, but Paul Skeens was named the SEC Pitcher of the Year. It's a 1.77 ERA, a 10-1 record, 86 and 2/3 innings on 164 strikeouts. By the way, hitters are only have a batting average of 1.161 on Skeens. Here's the most craziness about all of this for me is that in 14 appearances for Paul Skeens, he's only given up 17 earned runs. Not only is he the best pitcher in the SEC right now, maybe over the last 5 years, you can make the argument that Paul Skeens has been the best pitcher in the SEC that we've seen in half a decade. But unfortunately, even though those two young men have absolutely been fantastic, if you would have won Sunday, you would have won the regular season SEC championship game. Now, I will tell you, you ready for this? Even though LSU did not win the regular season, I'm pretty confident that they have locked up a top 5 regional host seeding. So, regardless of you not winning the outright SEC during the regular season, regardless of what happens in the tournament, I do think at worst LSU is going to be a top 5 national seed and will be able to host the regionals. And if it gets to it, or when it gets to it, we'll host a super regionals as well. We can recap this weekend, and we should. For me personally, this is just how I'm wired. Now, you can hate my opinion. You don't have to agree with my opinion, but it's just how I'm wired. The reason you play as an athlete, any given Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, whatever it is, you play to win championships. You play to win championships, right? Like that. There's no debate about that. You, as Herm Edwards once said, you play to win the game. I don't like that you had the ability on a Sunday to win the outright SEC regular season title, which you should own, by the way, because you dominated Arkansas in 2 games, Saturday and Sunday of that weekend. You play to win. You play to win championships. You play to win everything you can. And look, LSU could go into Hoover this weekend, in which we'll talk a lot about today and tomorrow. And obviously, LSU plays on Wednesday at 9:30, which I absolutely hate. We will talk a lot about that. But I don't want – it's kind of a double-edged sword. You're going to be a top 5 national seed at worst, but you're going to be in the top 8 regardless, even though I think you're going to be number 4 or 5. Hoover, to me, probably doesn't even really matter. I just get to a place where I wish you could have gotten that. Now, Friday, you absolutely, and we talked about this on the postgame show, you absolutely shoved. Paul Skeens shoved. Thatcher Hurd did some good things after giving up those 2 home runs. Saturday was a lot like that. You guys came out swinging the bat. You had Dylan Cruz leading off. He was really aggressive at the plate, which I really liked. Tommy White continued to be the nation's RBI leader. Josh Pearson is somebody that you found out that you probably need to be rotating in at minimum, but probably should get a start out in the outfield. Braden Jobert, even though he doesn't have the 18 home runs that he had a season ago, is always hovering around the 300 to 315 batting average, which is showing that he's gotten a lot better at the plate. Kay Beloso going over to first had a couple of key and really good defensive plays and getting balls out of the dirt. Jordan Thompson, yeah, he had some struggles at times. He dropped a pop fly here and there. He made a bad throw and a really what probably would have already been an infield hit if he wouldn't have gotten to it, but made some web gems that you will see only on SportsCenter. Just wish you would have gotten that game on Sunday. And for what it's worth, you're going to see starting Wednesday what your bullpen and what your guys on the mound are made of, because this is the tournament, and this is basically, if you make a deep run, what you're going to see LSU look like when they get into Omaha. Only better competition. Now, LSU has locked up the number 3 overall seed, and you will probably, and I don't want to say more than likely, but there's a good chance that you're going to play South Carolina in that game. Who knows? You never know in these kind of tournaments, and it's a single elimination. What does LSU do? Now, Jay Johnson said today that he really does want to go after and win some games in this thing. Can you? I highly doubt, after throwing nearly 120 pitches, if not more, that Paul Skeens will go Wednesday, but I do see him going in game 2 and at worst a possible elimination game for you. But man, it wouldn't be bad to make a nice little run here to see what your guys are really made of. You want to see in this tournament what you're really made of. Now, what did we see in last year's Hoover tournament? Nothing, because you lost to Kentucky. Now, you're a little big banged up. If you remember, Cade Doty had the separated shoulder. You had some guys banged up, and the weather was so bad you had to sit in the room. I think LSU sat in their hotel room for like 4 or 5 straight days, couldn't get out and do anything, and they were getting a little antsy. It backfired on them, but now you're in a situation where you're in a double elimination type of event here, and you had the best pitcher, obviously, and him winning the SEC Pitcher of the Year, and you had the best guy at the plate, regardless if he's in a slump, and a guy that you know at some point is going to break out of it, in Dylan Cruz. Truthfully, I want to see you make a run. I'm not asking you to win it. I'm not asking LSU to win this thing outright. I'm just hoping that they can go in there and get a deep run. By the way, did you know that 4 weeks ago, guys were hitting off of Ty Floyd at a batting average around 250 to 275, hovering around that? You know what they're hitting today? 192. So if you can get past this game on Wednesday, and I know it's early morning, anything goofy could happen in the Deep South at 9:30 in the morning on a Wednesday. But you do know that if you get past that game 1, you have more than a hell of a good chance to do some really good things. I don't think anybody in that tournament is going to take Paul Skeens to town. You're probably and more than likely going to get a win. See what these boys are made of. Let's see what they're made of, because I think that you can go in here and do things that you don't think that you can. A lot of teams are struggling with injuries. LSU's not the only one. I think you're in a pretty damn good seed to go and take it all if you need to. And even Paul Skeens today said that, yeah, I might swing the bat a little bit if I'm called upon. Could you imagine Paul Skeens like Todd Peterson so many years ago coming out and taking his first at bat in Hoover and launching one over the left field wall? There she goes. You could pucker up, and kiss that baby goodbye. Wouldn't that be awesome? He definitely then would be the best pitcher in the SEC, because not only is he shoving on the mound, he's going to give you the business at the plate too. No pause. I just want to see you make a run. And I do hate that you could not win that game on Sunday. Let's get to a couple comments, because we do need to get to some football. and some softball as well before we start guessing it up. Levi says he'll pitch Thursday. Most likely, I do think that he will. Paul Sub Martin says it's double elimination for us right now. Single elimination is tomorrow and Saturday. That is true. Did I mix that up? I don't think that I did. And when we were speaking, if I did, you know how I can get when I get excited. Chad says, do you think that they pitch Skeens to keep him in his routine? Well, Wednesday wouldn't be his routine. It'd be a day above his routine. Paul Sub again says, need South Carolina and Georgia to be a run fiesta tomorrow morning. The more arms they use, the better for us. I agree with our good friend there. Spectrum Wellcare on YouTube says SEC champions would have been nice. And look, you can hate my take on it. I am okay with you hating my take on that, right? But like Pooh Bear did, our producer Pooh Bear did a Spaces maybe Friday or Saturday. I can't really remember. And people were talking about, well, the regular season doesn't matter. Yeah, the regular season does matter for seeding purposes. It does matter for seeding purposes because you do know that when you get into a place in a time where, let me give an example, if you're the number 3 overall seed in a big tournament like that, you would probably face a number 14 regional host seed versus facing anything higher. So as an example, if you're the number 5 overall seed, you play the number 12 team, which might be a team like Coastal Carolina, or could be a team that you don't really know a lot about, but is really deep. We'll have to wait and find out. On that. Let me transition, though, to this. Over the weekend, Maason Smith announced that he had been fully cleared. Now, I'm not sure if a lot of you have faced these type of injuries, but if you remember Maason Smith, obviously, and it was really well known that he tore his ACL last year in week 1, drive 1 for the defense against Florida State. Let me make this clear to you, okay? He's been cleared for practice and a full go for LSU over the past weekend, which would make just over 8 months. So just over 8 months, maybe 8.5 months, he's been cleared. Let me tell you, as someone who struggled with an ACL multiple times in his life, the simple nature that young man is back is incredible. And not only that, you got June, July, and August, maybe roughly a little bit of August, because truth be told, you're going to be practicing again. So maybe 2.5 months to get more and fully locked in. It's massive news for LSU that Maason Smith is having such a high productive rehab, because a lot of times it's not the physical nature of a rehab when you go into an ACL. It's mental. Now, obviously, you have to go in there and you have a lot of physical things that you have to do. You have to balance on a balance ball with the leg that you had surgery on. You got to do a lot of hamstring curls, a lot of quad curls. You got to get massage, hashtag not Deshaun Watson. So a lot of things that go into that. But the addition and him having a great rehab benefits LSU so greatly. Here's why. Guys, I think this defensive line is going to be 10 times better. I shouldn't say 10 times, but it's going to be so much better. How about that? Than they were a season ago. Maason Smith, Harold Perkins on third down, Jordan Jefferson, Mekhi Wingo, and others. Parrish Shand is a guy that's going to be a big rotational piece in there as well. Deshaun Womack, how does he progress, even though LSU limited him during the spring? Because really and truthfully, how much did he need to go? Can he just go ahead and rehab and get the shoulder taken care of? Man, there are a lot of big-time pieces along this defense for LSU. I think of that front seven as an example. Could you imagine this being your front seven in September? Savion Jones, Maason Smith, Mekhi Wingo. Maybe you have a rotational piece at that edge or that jack position. But let's just say it's a guy that can really hold his own. By the way, Harold Perkins is going to be on the edge on third down and in situations that he needs to be. You have Greg Penn and Harold Perkins that have been rotating in at that inside linebacker spot. Oh, and by the way, you get the tackling machine in Omar Speights. One area that you struggled with at times last year was what you did up front. It's not a question. It's not even a question. You allowed less passing yards statistically when it comes to 1 through 131 than what you did in allowing rush yards in 1 through 131 statistically. Maason Smith being back is one of, if not the biggest key pieces that you can hear over the weekend. So much so that you have LSU's official Twitter account publishing it out. So shout out to Maason Smith and shout out to this front seven, because I do think that you're in a place where it's going to be really good. Oh, by the way, and look, I'm leaving off so many names here that could be key rotational pieces. Like Brian Kelly went out of his way to talk about Edna Carzon, Tyjee Hill. He talked about Quincy Wiggins. I've talked to Jamar Cain, and he won't mind me saying this now that he's not at LSU. But speaking to Jamar Cain, LSU's defensive line coach, before he left, we would have conversations about Quincy Wiggins and how good he can remotely be. So I sit here and tell you, when you look at LSU's front seven, can they be the best in the SEC? We'll find out. We'll find out. All right. Let's transition this because we got to get to Jenna here in about a minute and a half. Did y'all see what happened on Twitter today? By the way, the ladies are mad at me. They're mad at me. Look, I don't really know where to start here. We talked about this last week, and it's the ultimate question. Now, we'll talk to Jenna about it, and obviously we got some softball super regional stuff we need to talk about. Beth Torina and LSU went 42-17 this year. It's not bad. Here's what's bad, though. They lost 2 of 3 to number 21 Auburn. They lost 2 of 3 to number 16 Alabama. They got swept by number 5 Tennessee. They lost to number 11 seeded in a tournament, Ole Miss. They lost 2 yesterday to ULL. Beth Torina is 492 and 220 at LSU. She's almost a 500 win. She'll get 500 wins next year. Here's where everybody's upset, and I don't disagree with you. She's 149 and 118 in conference. She's been to 4 College World Series. You can't take that away from her. But yesterday, a lot of people were upset. And by the way, I know that Georgia Clark got upset with me, I would assume, even though the tweet wasn't at her. Here's the thing for me, personally. You got Oklahoma coming into this conference as well. When you're losing to top-ranked teams at LSU with a new AD, sometimes it doesn't bode well. 13 and 11 in conference the last 4 years has gotten fans upset. I don't need to be the person to ask the question to. Let's talk to our good friend Jenna. Let's talk to her next about it. Maybe she doesn't agree with the LSU fans. Maybe she does. But we do have a lot of good super regional stuff going on. Alabama, Northwestern, her Stanford Cardinal going up against Duke. Got some other ones like Oklahoma, Florida State, and Georgia also in the mix. We talked to her next about it. Let's talk about our good friend Carol False over at State Farm. Don't go anywhere. We got some softball we need to talk about. And Carter the Power Bryant joins us later on in the show. Stay tuned. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol False and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol False has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. Jenna Becerra is joining us. You can follow her on Twitter. We'll give you all that good stuff, but she calls the games for the Stanford Cardinal. Our softball go-to. You need to follow her as well. It's been fantastic since I've started following her, especially since regionals and super regionals are underway. Jenna, good afternoon. How we doing?
I'm good. I mean, I'm tired. I have a softball hangover, I think, from regionals weekend because it was wild. You go from 64 teams to 16, so my head's still spinning a little bit, but, that's what I'm here for.
Well, your Stanford Cardinal is getting in that Durham regional against number 8 Duke. We'll get to those in just a minute, but let me start off with this. You know I'm a Tiger man. This is a Tiger show, but I got to ask you, Jenna, there's a lot of people that are aggravated with the current situation down in the Bayou with Beth Tureen and this team. Now, they lost twice yesterday to ULL. I guess when you hear Beth Tureen and you hear about this team and you hear some of the struggles, I guess what is a good way to think about it? What should LSU fans really look into this and think?
I think context matters. And I think the first thing I said to you when we were coordinating doing this is you said something about Beth Tureen, and I was like, yep, a queen, because I like her a lot. I think that she's done a great job. The thing to consider too is like she's averaging about 40 wins a season since she's been there, which has been about 12 years or so. That's pretty impressive, especially when you consider that she is consistently having her team with the top 10 or so strength of schedule in the country. So let's think about that when we're talking about records as well. And even when you're looking at the SEC in particular, I think you mentioned earlier, 13 and 11 in conference play, for example, that's above 500. This is one of the toughest conferences in the country that she's competing in as well. I'm aware that some of them, it's like, all right, they should have definitely done a little bit better. Getting swept by Tennessee is not the worst thing on earth, considering how great of a season they've had, both in regular season and the championship, and even their overall seeding being in the top 5 this year for the tournament. So I just think that context matters. And I would say, and I don't say this to be soft, I say this to be realistic of the big picture, which is you have to consider the person as well. And I don't mean whether or not to, we like her, so we should keep her. That's not what I mean. What I mean is she seems to be a good influence on these student athletes as people. You talk about her involvement in the strikeout ovarian cancer movement that happens down at LSU, and her mom is an ovarian cancer survivor. And then you look at the fact that, Allie Newland on the team made the all SEC softball community service team. Right. And you just think about these people, these student athletes, as full people, too. And I think in that regard, she's also doing a good job.
I'm with you. I don't think so. Look, last week I came out here and said there's just no way you could fire Beth at the current moment. Okay. However, when a team is struggling, and I look, I'm not trying to come on here and bash on Beth, but I do think it's a fair question to ask. Hey, look, they haven't done anything since 2017 in reference to the talent that they might have had and getting back to the College World Series. Now, she got to 4 straight. I mean, let's not get this twisted, okay? My question would be, when a team's losing against every ranked opponent every weekend that they play a ranked opponent, and it's not just in one season, is there a way to remedy that? I mean, look, Oklahoma and Texas are coming into this conference, and look, they're both in the supers. So I guess, what do you think that LSU could possibly do to start remedying this thing and get it back to where they can get to the World Series?
Well, I think, again, the context matters. But losing against the toughest teams, that is something you look at. And that's actually something that the committee looked at specifically for the selection show for the NCAA tournament this year, is how the performance against top 10 teams and top 25 teams. What did you do in those situations? So it does matter. And I think what you can do, I mean, a lot of it starts with recruiting, right? It's like bringing in a certain amount of talent. But I think what has made it more complicated in today's game, certainly versus when I played, is the transfer portal as well. You go from bringing these people in to really having to develop and focus on that talent for an extended period of time, transfers being the outlier to, and I'm not saying this is just LSU, I'm saying in general. And then now you have to manage that every single year. You don't know if you're going to have, possibly several different players on the team again. So I think recruiting in itself is a big piece, but it's also something that has changed a ton over the last 12 years. She started coaching my senior year of college, and it has changed a ton just since then.
So basically what you're telling me is that LSU should go get all the superstars from ULL from this weekend and bring them over. That's what I heard. Am I wrong here?
I mean, you're not wrong, but also I think that, there were a lot of people that would have argued that Louisiana should have hosted as well and been a national seed this time around. So in a way too, LSU getting that draw, basically because of the convenience of location being in state, they're constantly paired up like that. It's kind of tough. It's a tough draw in regionals when they really could have probably hosted themselves. And I know what that's like. My career ended, my college career, in Lafayette playing against Louisiana. And they have the fan base as well, too. I think it says something about the growth of softball in Louisiana, which is something that Beth Torina talked about as well. She'd love for both programs to be able to thrive. You look at like Alabama and Auburn, both going a little bit further. And then you look at Florida and Florida State, different conferences, but certainly from the same state, building up what could be some great talent in the local area. So it's complicated is the short answer.
Did you enjoy the food when you were in Lafayette, though?
I did. We mostly were at the hotel for me because I was playing, but the parents definitely enjoyed the food. They went on a little food tour with everyone and with each other. And I think my parents tried to go to like a Popeyes because they somehow thought that was authentic in Louisiana, which I think we've learned since then is not quite the same thing.
Oh, God, that's so great. Hopefully they got the spicy chicken sandwich, but that was so many years ago they didn't.
I know. I'm too old for that.
We both are. I wake up in the morning and bones start cracking. All right, Jenna is joining us. We'll let you know where you can catch all of our content. So, look, Jenna, let me transition before we get to the super regionals and who you think is going to be, some dark horses maybe in here. Oklahoma and Texas coming into the conference. Now, what gets talked about a lot is obviously football and baseball and especially maybe sometimes basketball, but football and baseball in particular, because Texas and Oklahoma are obviously big brands in both of those things. But what people fail to realize, Oklahoma literally might have the dream team of softball right now, and they've had for the last couple of years. I guess how big of an impact in the softball world is it that Oklahoma is coming into the league here? And look, it's not like Texas. We can sneeze at Texas either. They're also in the supers as well. I guess tell me how big of an impact is that on a day-to-day schedule? Because obviously we saw LSU playing this year and other teams, and they just go anywhere and they just beat the snot out of anybody.
Well, yeah. Yes. I mean, Oklahoma straight up this is a generational team. This year, last year, they will likely become only the second team ever to three-peat this year. The last time was UCLA in the late 80s. Like it is not normal what we're seeing come out of Norman, right? They are really in their own category in a lot of ways. But also to your point, yes, credit to Texas, even last year being an unseeded team and making it all the way to the Women's College World Series championship series,
right?
Against Oklahoma. That's impressive. And then here they are this year. I think they thought they should have got a higher seed maybe than what they did. But the fact that they were able to host at least right off the bat for regionals was a good thing. It's going to make a huge difference. And I think, the SEC it basically becomes a super conference when it comes to softball, at least. There are 13 teams already. Make it 15 and you're bringing in some national seeds and literally the best softball team that maybe has ever existed in college softball coming over. It's ridiculous is what it is. And actually what it does is not only strengthen the SEC, but it hurts the Big 12. It does in terms of softball. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There were 4 teams that made it into the NCAA tournament this year from the Big 12, and 2 of them are leaving. Oklahoma and Texas. The other 2, right. Baylor and Oklahoma State. Like that's tough. That's tough, for a Power 5 conference to have to deal with. But I think what Oklahoma and Texas can look forward to, especially Oklahoma, is more visibility for the program, because I know there are some Oklahoma fans are intense, and I think that's the case all throughout the SEC as well. So they'll fit right in when it comes to that. But I think that they, want a little bit more recognition. No one landed in the top 3 finalists for Player of the Year from the best team. People have a lot to say about that. You know what I mean? And two of them did not go past regionals with Maya Brady at UCLA, right? And Skylar Wallace from Florida. So it's just Valerie Cagle left from Clemson in terms of who's actually going to make it further. So I think there's a lot of benefits for Oklahoma. I certainly see why they're doing it, and Texas as well. It's going to hurt the Big 12.
Let me ask you this before I keep saying this because I really want to get to it. I was not calling what Georgia Clark did necessarily wrong, Jenna. She got thrown out at the plate by the home plate umpire. I know what she said that she said. Okay, well, this is what I said, but tough scene. I mean, look, you played college softball. So, I mean, as much baseball experience as I may or may not have, you just can't show up. Even in the appearance of showing up an umpire, you might get tossed. I guess maybe your thoughts on that, because I get what she's saying. Like, I'm not – come on. But at the same time, you pointed at him, not going to make him happy at all. I guess when you saw that, your thoughts.
Yeah, and it was more than once, right? So that's
Correct.
Context matters in some of these things. But
Correct.
I would say,
even though I'm getting ripped alive on Twitter and nobody, the people, one guy was like, "Yeah, I ain't watched softball, but you're wrong, Blake," and I'm like, "What?"
Well, one of my first reactions, to be honest with you, was actually like, I'm glad people care this much. People used to not care about this kind of thing. They wouldn't be talking about softball to this level and even comparing it to the men's side of things with baseball. And even with, we're talking about LSU in particular too, even with Angel Reese and the women's basketball piece, that wasn't talked about that much before either. So the fact that people are even engaged enough, on the one hand, I'm like, it's not that all publicity is good publicity, necessarily, but like it's being talked about, which I think is a big deal. I think, of course, it's one thing for something to not be your style, which is, I would say that would be the case for me. Like I wasn't a chirper. I didn't really talk to umpires much in general, or even like to other teams that much. I'm also not a big bat flip type person, but at the same time, you can acknowledge that other people sort of do have that passion, and that might be their style. Like, so I'm not necessarily saying like, I probably wouldn't have done it, even though she did say like, you made the right call. That's what she's saying. She said to the umpire when rounding second base on that home run.
That was the only time you could tell him that. I mean,
Right. And it's basically like I'm torn in the middle, where I feel like sometimes I feel like I want women in general, but also softball players specifically, to have more of that fire and that passion. So on the one hand, I'm like, I like that part of it. Optics are a factor though too, and so it's just not my style. And it is a lesson in terms of like not being reactionary, but it's the optics. It's the optics versus like what was maybe actually said. It's like the way you carry yourself and the style of play. And it's just, it can be a controversy to talk about. But I kind of like that because that means people care, like I said.
Hey, and you would know a little something about hitting home runs and pimping, and you did have 6 in your last season. I read in your stat line there today. So I had to ask. All right, one more for you, and we'll get you out of here. Raging Cajuns at Washington. They're going up to Seattle, Northwestern and Alabama, Duke, and your Stanford Cardinal, Oregon and Oklahoma State, Florida and Georgia, and Oklahoma and Clemson. Anybody in this super regional, and we'll have to bring you back to talk about this, anybody standing out to you that you think that maybe no one's given a lot of respect to that could make it into the World Series?
I think for the most part, 3 of the teams that moved on from regionals were not seeded. I do think, and I have a lot of this background coming from Pac-12 networks, that Oregon has been underrated a bit. They go into Arkansas, not an easy place to play, an amazing place to play, an outstanding environment, but, people are rooting against you. It's a little bit different. So I think they were underrated. They finished in the middle of the pack, but the Pac-12 has got some of the highest strength of schedule teams in it. So they're underrated and they're moving on. But the thing is the historic like shocker for everyone is that UCLA didn't come out of the LA regional. Like the fact that the number 2 overall seed did not come out of their regional, but it's the first ever for San Diego State. I was rooting for either team. I was just rooting for good softball at the end between San Diego State being led by Stacey Newman, who's one of the GOATs from UCLA. And then you have Liberty, who's being led by Dot Richardson, who's also one of the GOATs from UCLA, but also both Olympic legends too. It was unreal, but San Diego State went undefeated, unseeded and undefeated. And I just think that, they're going up against a hot Utah team. That is a team that has been underrated all season long as well. And now they have a shot. I think if I had to guess, they'd come out of it. But I feel like we sleep on the mid-majors a little bit too much. And we see these upsets every year in postseason are they really upsets? Maybe that's the question.
The first thing when I saw, because I couldn't watch all the games.
It's hard. There's too many.
Well, I have to do it for football, and so this is my off season, so I can't do it. So I was obviously not being, but obviously this last night and this morning when I started looking at it and prepping for today's show, it is the West Coast and the South.
Yeah.
Who's going to win, the West Coast or the South? But look, it's been fun having you, and we're going to have to bring you back soon to talk about this College World Series after these Supers are round up. But to let everybody know where they can catch all your content and everything that you guys are doing that's been so great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's Believe in Softball is the name of the show, and it's spelled like Believe Network that we're on, that we know and love, BLEAV. You can follow it on Instagram and Twitter at Believe in Softball. It's also available on all the major audio podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff, as well as YouTube. And you can subscribe there too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Jenna that joined us. Next, she was great, by the way. Fantastic. Next, you know where we got to go. Way down yonder on the chat. Oh, wait, no, that's not it. Carter Bryant joins us next. He's going to talk some football. We're going to talk about Drake Williams next, so don't touch that dial tone.
By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by.
Carter, the power, Bryant. What's up, dude?
So,
all right. First off,
I got no. Hold on. I'm so glad you had an actual softball expert on today. I was so furious what was happening to you on social media. And we don't agree. People don't know. Like, we have private conversations where you agree, we disagree, that never make the airwaves, right?
That's correct.
There's never been any controversy you've ever been a part of where you were actually in the right and the other person.
Hey!
I'm sorry. Someone's got to say it. Look.
No, I've been on the right side of a lot of controversies.
Okay. But this one, I actually do agree with you, right? Like, don't ever yell at the umpires. And guess what? This is called Occam's razor, the simplest solution to a complex problem. Okay. If you don't yell at the umpires, guess what they can't do? Like,
throw you out.
They can't throw you out. It's simple. So I understand Georgia Clark is an LSU great. I totally get it. But you're a senior, and that changed the momentum of the game. And yes, it was a horrible call that she's right to be a part of. But I'm here to talk football. I want to let you know that publicly. I was like, God, this is just crazy. Did anybody actually watch the game? But anyway. Blake, I was going through history today, trying to find the best LSU drive in history, and I think I found it. I want to know, what is your favorite LSU drive when you think of the best?
3rd and 17.
So 3rd and 17, that drive. Okay. Yeah.
And it wasn't even really a drive, really.
Right. So
let me tell you my favorite over the last. Let's discount 19 because there's so many. Okay,
right.
you ready?
Yeah, it's here.
Jane Daniels' pass in the corner of the end zone to Maason Taylor. It's better than the zone read touchdown.
Yeah.
That showed that you ain't scared.
That was so good. It really is up there. Like everything about that drive. Even the throw to Kayshawn that drew the pass interference was so huge to back shoulder that, because they had tried so many slot fades, and that was one that finally worked with Kayshawn in particular, even though it was a pass interference. Man, that was huge. That's definitely up there. It really is.
You know what I've noticed about Jane Daniels that we don't give him enough credit for?
Yeah.
Name the times that we were in crunch situations last year where he didn't provide.
The only game in crunch time where he was just not good was Texas A&M.
I agree.
But
you know what, Carter? I will take him being 4 of 1. And by the way, was injured. Okay.
Sure.
Let's not dispute that. Okay. Like, my man was hurting out there. Florida State, he wins 99 yards.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, he's down technically 17-3. They come all the way back. He's got to fight off Bryce Young in Alabama. And truth be told, he's a bad spot away against Tennessee from that game being 20-14 at halftime. Okay. I just think that he had so many clutch times last year that because he did not let some of the balls go deep downfield, we just don't talk about him, right? Like, not like that. Like, he has a negative contone to it. So I do think that that's interesting. I was going to start off by saying that, you grossed me out completely this weekend, like you normally do, and saying what's the worst dumps of all time that you could have. But I don't even want to bring my show there because it's been too good of a show to talk about you dumping and what's the worst. But I will agree with you. It is crawfish.
Okay, thank you. It wasn't.
And your wife was fully embarrassed. She had to put her phone down, I heard. Sources confirmed.
That's fine. She's used to that. But there honestly, yes, true. Post crawfish boil the next day, you just be ready. But when you're at a Mardi Gras parade and you're in the middle of everything, and you have the runs, and it's porta potty.
God.
Next, but you squat like crazy, man. Like you could.
I've never in my life had a runs at a Mardi Gras. We're going to change the subject. We can't do this to ourselves. I can't do it. I'm going to throw up. I can't do this. All right, Carter Bryant joining us. Maason Smith returning 8.5 months after he torn his ACL. Carter, I'm just going to tell you, as a man personally who's been over 300 pounds in his life, for a big man to be back that quickly is unreal.
Right. Yeah, and I'm lucky to know some people in sports medicine. The bigger you are.
Okay, never mind. I'm not going to ask you that, but continue.
No, yeah. So the bigger you are, it can be harder, right? And look, it all comes down to how hard you want to work. Like, to get back to where he needs to be, you have to put the work in, right? Especially, a non-contact one like that one. And the one thing I always say about Maason is he's always worked hard. Like, when he first got to campus, he changed his entire diet, right, to become, just an overall better athlete. So I love that. Freaking do. And like you've been harping on, Blake, LSU needs more pass rush, especially at the defensive tackle position. And he's definitely one of the guys that can provide it. He was a great pass rusher, first drive versus UCLA. So if he can get back to even close to that shape, form, and fashion, LSU's got pretty ferocious defensive line going into next year.
Jake Cole. Says for him the best drive was Florida Jacob Hester touchdown. I think that's a good one too.
That's a good one. That's a great one.
So for me, look, Carter, I just think you're better up front defensively. So now we're in May. We're getting so close to the season. We can really start talking about football, right?
Yeah.
Buddy, they're so much better up front. Jordan Jefferson, not named the quarterback. Savion Jones, I think, is an upgrade from Ali Gay. Maason Smith returns. Let's see what he can do. Mekhi Wingo, Deshaun Womack, you have guys that are out there on the edge. I just think you're better up front and you're deeper up front, which makes you better. This front seven has the potential to be something special with Omar Speights, Harold Perkins, and Greg Penn in there too. When you start looking at this now that we're getting really close, because, Carter, it's not going to be that long. We're going to be here. What do you think about this defensive line?
It's going to be great. It should be. Now, once again, it is going to be interesting. Obviously, these defensive linemen, they are going to go through a transition with the new defensive line coach. I don't think it's as big of a transition as if it was an offensive line coach just now coming in, where it is a lot more about continuity, as you know, from playing position, I think, or an offensive side of the football. But still, it's going to come down to how Matt and Jimmy want to work together. Obviously, these two are close, right? They've coached before in the past, so it should work out. Like, Jimmy and Matt go way back, and hopefully those two fit well together. And look, Blake, as much as we talk about, stop a pass, you also got to be able to stop the run first. And one big thing that people get wrong about, a lot of these SEC spread attacks, a lot of them are run-based first, right? We talked so much about Jordan Travis and Keon Coleman, Destin Hill, or the flashy new toys next to, Wilson on the outside. But Florida State likes to run the football. Alex Atkins and them, they like to get in between the tackles, and stopping the run is going to be very important to make passing downs a lot more easier.
Andre Sam commits to LSU. Carter, I got to admit, I really, 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 really like this kid.
Okay.
I think he's going to start. I think he's going to start.
Where do you think he's going to start?
I think they're going to try him at nickel. They're going to rotate him in there, and I think they'll have packages for him to come in. I think you're going to have to declare him as a starter. But listen, I was like, you know what? When I watch this kid's highlight film, I'm like, I don't want to go watch his highlight film. I want to go watch the Notre Dame game. I want to watch what he was doing when stats aren't involved in this. He covered. He tackled in space. Carter, I will be real with you. Outside of Omar Speights and Harold Perkins, he might be your third best tackler on this team. Like, I don't think that there's a debate for that.
He's also old, right? And that's good, right? He's year 7. And he's class of 2017.
Well, 6, right?
No, so class of 2017. So 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. So
good Lord.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's been around, but he was a 0-star recruit who worked his way up, right? So I'm really excited to see him. I do agree with you, Blake. I don't think he's like a Chad Jones where he's going to be a center field deep safety. He's a guy that likes to get in the box and make plays, but he can give you some center field reps as well. Now, one thing, I know we're running out of time here, Blake, but
no, we're okay.
Actually, okay. No, but look, I want to bring this up really quickly because you were bringing up Jaden a minute ago. So I won't go too deep into it. It's kind of like, the Kentucky thing I did a few months ago. There's so much that goes into what I'm about to say. LSU on third down last year.
Horrible.
Offensively?
Oh, no, defensively. We were on the defensive side of the ball, so I thought you were talking about defensively.
Okay. Offensively,
they were really, really good offensively. They were number 7 in the country, were they not?
They were up there, but what was interesting, Blake, was I was able to team up with some really good analytics guys, actually at State College, Pennsylvania, and we teamed up and we actually did something that we are going to release on the channel a little bit later. I'll send you some of the stuff after this. And LSU was very good on third down, which was
Defensively or offensively?
offensively. Defensively, there was a lot to be desired, but offensively, they were really good. And the one thing that they were really good at was not only third and shorts, but third and mediums. And one thing that Brian Kelly did a really good job of was mixing things up on third and medium, where, Josh Williams had the iconic run. We were talking about the Alabama drive a minute ago.
3rd and 7.
Third and 7. You never think run the ball on 3rd and 7. Not only did it work there, it worked in a spot versus Ole Miss in the third quarter. LSU was very innovative and ahead of the 8 ball when it comes to third down decision making. And there's so much more to it. I won't go too deep into it, but I'll be dropping a film study on that later this week. And a lot of it was Jaden. I will say there was one aspect, the third down decision making, where they weren't too great. We'll talk about that next week. But to end things, a little positively here, they were really good on third down offensively last year.
All right, last one, because I'll get to this with you very quickly because I won't get to it. Kevin Warren.
I haven't kept up, too much, but
you hadn't heard?
Well, yeah, I heard that he cost them a lot of money, giving them NBC, the Big Ten title game or something. It was crazy.
Not only did he give them the title game, he didn't have the signatures for NBC. And by the way, they don't own their rights. Did you know that the Big Ten does not even own their rights? Fox does.
Yeah, I'm always going to be defensive of Kevin Warren to a certain degree in 2020, right? Because
I'm the complete opposite.
Right. So there's just so much uncertainty, and it's your first year on the job. And what was it? Jim Delaney was the Big Ten commissioner before him. I think that was
just
his name.
As bad.
Yeah. So kind of a mess, coming in, and boom, this happens. I do think, though, he was always in over his head, and being a commissioner of a conference, you sometimes have to, and one thing that commissioners do a bad job of is they always want to please everybody. But sometimes, like Greg Sankey, he's very direct. He's very strong in who he is and what he says. And Kevin Warren was a pushover, really. So a disaster. I read it vaguely, but I saw some of you and Mr. Delhone's takes on it. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy, man. It's wild.
Idiot.
I'm just ready for Oregon and Washington to join the SEC. I'm ready. Geography doesn't matter. It's all about the Bucks, baby.
Tulane will enter the Big 12 before those two teams enter the SEC.
Would you fear Tulane as a Power 5 school?
No.
Really?
No.
They do become a factor if they get into the Power 5. I do think so. They're a factor now, but they're not a factor. They're not a factor with us.
They do not have the resources.
But if they became a Power 5 school,
they don't have the infrastructure.
But it could start, right? You need
start where? Where are they going to build? The stadium that they're at now went through legal proceedings because they weren't supposed to be able to do it. The mayor. The mayor is a buffoon when it comes to what Tulane needs.
She's the most unpopular mayor ever. Is she not? Like, I don't know anything about.
I think
so.
That's saying a lot. I mean, Mitch Landrieu is up there too.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, I don't know. I do think Tulane, if they were a Power 5 school, I do think they could be a factor. I do. I mean, look,
they can factor D's nuts.
I
am not scared of a green wave.
I'm not scared of them now. I don't think I'll be scared of him anytime soon, but I do think if they became a Power 5 school, it would be a little bit easier to recruit the 504. I do for them as far as like being some of the better kids.
Yeah.
Look, to have the Power 5 monopoly over the state that LSU has had is always going to be the biggest reason why LSU is LSU, right? It's always, as you know, Blake.
They are really Fritz away from sucking again.
Who, Tulane?
Yeah.
I think Willie Fritz is there to stay. Do you believe in them next year, Pratt, those guys? We need to play them again. Bring them back.
Yeah, I do want to play him and put 50 up on that ass and tell him who daddy is.
And they won't have Matt Forte this time, so we'll destroy them.
Neither will they have Tajay Spears.
Tajay Spears, yeah. It's still crazy to think that game was 10-9 at halftime.
Less smiles, brother. Less smiles.
Less smiles. Oh, man.
One day we need to go into just how greatly horrible of a coach he was. Oh, Carter, he won a crap load of games, though, dude. He won a crap load of games. You can't take it from him.
I think you can, though. I do. For this reason, okay? For this reason. It depends on your philosophy. If you are like Brian Kelly and you're a process over results kind of guy, or if you're like Nick Saban, you're a process over results kind of guy, there were so many victories that Les Miles won that did not abide by good process, right? We were not prepared. Meetings
as Al Davis once said.
So it win, baby, win. I give Les a lot of credit. He won a lot of games, but the process was never sound. We backed into a lot of victories. Obviously, we had a bunch of magical victories as well. But
Carter, here's the truth. You ready?
Yeah.
At the current moment, he is the most accomplished LSU coach of all time.
Okay. I would.
At the moment, he is the most accomplished. You can't take that away from him.
Is that due to talent?
It doesn't matter what he got the talent.
No. But that's due to longevity and scarcity, right? He was there longer, and there's not many people that are able to be the coach at LSU at any set point in time.
I get that.
Right.
I get that. I'm just saying we shit on him a lot, which we should.
Yeah.
But just don't get it twisted now. Like it's like me saying this. It's like me saying this. Let's just do this. Since 2010, who is the second best LSU quarterback of all time?
Second best since 2010.
Yeah.
It's either Jaden or Matt. Either one of those two. It's either Jaden or Matt.
Matt Flynn wasn't on the 10 team. Oh, Matt. Like Matt Burger.
Mettenberger, yes, not Matt. Matt, my bad. I always call him Matt.
Jaden. It's currently Jaden to me.
So you think Jaden's better than Matt? Or Zach Mettenberger?
Here's the problem. He's already got more touchdowns in the season. He's got almost the same amount of yards. He's got more rushing yards, and he won the West. Met never did. Accomplishments have to matter.
I would agree. I would also.
I don't want to hear about the offense. I don't want to hear about toss dive because you're in the offense that you're in. You're in the defense that you're in. Tyrann Mathieu benefited greatly from the defense that he was on. He played with 10 other NFL stars, not stars, but 10 more NFL draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can definitely make an argument that Zach's wide receiver, running back combo is arguably it's definitely top 2 or 3. I mean, you can argue it's the best. The two best wide. You can make an argument.
Bo is this is giving him PTSD. You know what's interesting? Pierce Lee says Les Miles beat Saban 5 times. Who else can say that? That is interesting.
Okay. But timing also matters, right? He beat him 5 times, so he beat him.
Yeah, but you know what? You know
he beat
what you saying about Kirby right now?
What about him?
That he's overtaken Saban.
Yeah,
it took him 5 years.
Yeah, but
well, I mean, listen. It's not as if in 3 years that he didn't have Carter. He had 5 straight number 1 overall recruiting classes, and Les was still waxing that ass.
Les waxing who? Saban?
He waxed that ass. D'Angelo Peterson's still running.
Okay, so what years?
2011, 9-6. We waxed that ass.
We waxed him. Huh? Robert Kraft, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade were all in the building to watch that.
Were they really? Were they really?
Yeah. So I was on the field for that game. I met Robert Kraft. When you meet a billionaire, they're not like the rest of the world. They're not. They're different.
I've met one, and they're
crazy. I think I've met 2 or 3.
I smell them. They smell like me.
Well, I appreciate you.
You guys go.
I'm live right now. I want to come see. Come. How about?
All right. See you. Scarlet Power Bryant. We are out of here. We'll see you tomorrow, knuckleheads. Peace.